The passage of time. We have shared your joy at the birth of your children, and proudly we have watched them grow. We've taken care of your healthcare needs during the good times and the not so good. Your parents and grandparents have depended upon us. Together we have shared the struggles and the wonders of life. At Oktibbeha County Hospital, we are celebrating 30 years of being your lifelong choice in healthcare.
First item that we have is the approval of the official agenda, and we do have a few items on here for consent purposes. You think that there's that on here?
Mr. Mayor and Board, for your consideration tonight, the following items are recommended for consent agenda, starting on page 3. Items G and H of Roman numeral 9, with the notation on item H that this ad be limited to the $30 ad. It was a 30, 50, 100, so we said $30 ad. On page 4, B, item 4. C, item 1. D, fire department, items 1, 2, 3. E, personnel, items 1 and 2. G, police department, items 2 and 3.
I think there's a correction on an expense on item 3, as long as it gets updated under
Do we have that correction?
Marquita.
No, I didn't receive it before.
Okay.
So you wish to remove that?
Well, let's remove it, and I expect by the time we
Okay.
get to that item, we'll be able to fix
We've
it.
had the request that item 3 under G, police, be removed, subject to a monetary correction of some sort. Item I, or Roman numeral I, sanitation, items 1, 3, and 4.
Are there any others that anyone would like to add or suggest or take off?
Mr. Mayor, then I would move approval of the agenda with the designated consent agenda item.
Second.
Motion is second that we approve the agenda with the items mentioned for consent purposes. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, nay. It brings us to the approval of the Starkville Board of Aldermen minutes of the regular meeting of January the 2nd and the recess meeting of January the 15th and the special call meeting of January the 29th.
Move approval of the minutes of a regular meeting of January 2nd, 2008.
Do we have a second for the approval of the minutes of January the 2nd?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay.
Mr. Mayor, move approval of the minutes of the recess meeting of January 15th. Second.
We have a motion to second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay.
And if you'll just note the correction on the table for the minutes of the special call meeting of January 29th, I'd move approval of those minutes.
Do we have a second with that motion?
Second.
All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Okay, I hope that all of you enjoyed the holiday yesterday. We did have a holiday. The city was closed yesterday. It's good to be back in operation today. Look forward to a lot of great things happening this spring. We have several public appearances tonight and lots of information to go through. At this time, we'll open the floor for citizen comments. This is your 3 minutes to complain about any issue you want to complain about. Alvin, how are you this evening?
All right, how we doing? Good evening to the Mayor and Board of Aldermen. The citizens just have a couple of things. We do not know whether this city limit go out to Collier Road or not, or on Rock Hill Way, but that's a very dark area, and we're concerned about that.
You're talking about there are no street lights at that point, is that correct?
Right, it's just a dark, when you come up on this, you don't know.
Right.
And we're afraid of that being that far out. The traffic light on Hawassi and Hospital Road and Reed Road and the timer on it, that people are kind of edgy, that do the light be stuck or do it have to hold that long? And they're afraid to run the light because they don't know where the police is. And the ditches on Lafayette Street, they are grass and full, and when it rains, it floods over onto the yard of the residents that live on that street. That's that behind us. Thank you.
Thank you. I think the light problem, Ed, that's Ford County area, isn't it?
Okay. We know.
And what we need to do is package you up, send you out there to get them to put a light in the city. That's a possible thing to have to do.
All right. Thank you.
Anyone else? Then we'll move on with our public appearances. We have someone here tonight from the Arts Council to make a presentation to us, and if you're here, come up and have a seat.
Good evening, Mayor Camp, esteemed board, and city officials. I'm Candy Creasy, one of the co-chairs of the 2008 Arts Festival, and Robin Fant and Jennifer Rabideau are my co-chairs. Jennifer sends her warm greetings. She's representing us at another meeting at this time. We're here to, I guess, in sort, like the blessing of the fleet, the blessing of the partnership with the city of Starkville for our 12th Arts Festival, destined for April 19th, a Saturday in 2008. And we're looking for another most successful expanded growth this year. 2007, we had over 15,000 attendance, just record breakings in every one of our events, 120 runners participating in the run. This year we are so blessed, the run is now sanctioned, which is a very nice compliment to the history of the run. We are anticipating over 100 artisans this year. The restaurant response at this time looks like we're going to be closer to around 30 restaurants, and we have quite a few new villages that are going to be started this year. The Canis Major, which is going to house the pet parade and a bully art auction. We're up to 60 bullies to be designed by artists and school art groups this year. We're also going to have Chaucer's Village, which is our new literary village. It's going to really focus on the children's literature world in the morning, and then in the afternoon, the drama and the readings and writings of poetry. It's just going to be another fun-filled, exciting days for the families of the region. Our publicity this year is reaching out to a 150-mile circular radius. We've already sent out our first major press release to over 80 publications and receiving, we want more, we want more, we want more back. So we are here to answer any questions about what's coming our way, and also Mr. Fant will express our request again as part of the partnership.
Sure, and Thank you again for letting us be here and for being our partner in this event every year. I think I've been on this committee since its inception, way back when we had it in downtown Starkville. One of my main role in this whole festival is usually logistics, and that's helping put it all together and getting the right people in the right places. We do request that the city let us block or close down University Drive from Colonel Muldrow to North Nash, which would be able to bypass traffic through, as we have in the past, to send traffic through up North Nash, or South Nash, excuse me, to get back out through the Cotton District that way. And also we were going to secure access to be able to go through the Comfort Suites parking lot again from the other entrance so that there is no blocked roads to be able to get through. We have talked to all the department heads and have always had full participation with all of them in the past, and that's our request for this year.
Any question by any of the members of the board?
Robin, what do you do if it rains? Has it ever rained on this event?
Once.
It did.
We got rained out one time, but since it is a all volunteer driven, all fundraising type event, that we don't really have any money to lose. The monies that we do make, the majority of it goes in scholarships out to the different schools, and we do leave a certain amount of seed money into it for the next year so that the event happens. We've looked at doing rainy day insurance, but we really have never gotten into paying big bands or paying, a lot of money to hold the festival. It's all volunteer-driven, volunteer-based, and so there's not a whole lot to lose other than a great day of having fun with your family out on the street.
And we get our request in the Mother Nature pretty early into the season, so she can, get those rain days separated correctly in April.
We've been very fortunate. It is a large family. It's one of the few huge family events for the town, and it's great seeing. I think I've seen most everybody out at the event, and had major volunteers helping put it on, and it's grown every year to become something that really helps put Starkville a fun place to be.
Our juror for the juried art this year is, I'm sure most everyone's familiar, is Wyatt Waters. He comes from Clinton, Mississippi, but he is a nationally known and well-respected artist, and he's looking very forward to coming to Starkville. And also, for all the fellow Rotarians in here, we're very honored. The Governor's Conference for this year has been dated in conjunction with the Arts Festival. They called and asked when that was, so they could have it in conjunction and enjoy all the entertainment from the Arts Festival while participating in the District Governor's Conference at the same time. So we thought that was a very nice compliment to the festival and to the city of Starkville.
We'd like for it to be a baseball game weekend, but we didn't have any control over when the baseball games were going to be in Starkville. But it makes it a fun place to come.
Mr. Mayor and Board, with your concurrence, we might just go ahead and consider a motion on this particular request. I would move that the city give its traditional support to the Cotton District Arts Festival, including the street closure on April 19th, 6 in the morning to 6 at night, including University Drive from the corner of South Nash Street to Camp Avenue or the Comfort Suites entrance, and the adjacent side streets that are within that particular stretch of road, and that the police, electric, sanitation, and fire department provide their traditional support of the Cotton District Arts Festival, and further that the mayor be directed to proclaim April as the month of the arts.
Second.
Would that be including the request for sponsorship presents for the city of Starkville based on the amount of the in-kind contribution?
Yes, it would, and that has been traditional, though that was not in the request, that the city of Starkville also be listed as a sponsor at the appropriate level, given the value of these in-kind services.
Very much so.
We have a motion and a second. Is there anyone who would have to have further discussion? If not, we'll vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, nay. Thank you.
We
Thank you.
Sergeant Smith?
I'm gonna stand up, Mr. Mayor, if you don't mind.
That's fine.
I won't take up too much of your time. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Board of Aldermen. My name is First Class Smith, Ronald Smith. I'm originally from Starkville. Been here all my life, but I'm the readiness NCO at the National Guard Armory. And just recently, some legislation was passed, and House Bill Senate Bill 2403 and House Bill 1575 basically is authorizing, the state has authorized the county and the city to grant an ad valorem exemption on tags. The way I read it in the agenda tonight is better than I can put it in words. So it's basically what we're needing is approval from the Board of Aldermen that this exemption be allowed to active military or active guardsmen that have been called up, or reservists, or anybody that's active duty from the city of Starkville, giving them exemption of $50 per vehicle during that year while they're in country. But it would have to be supported by their orders and when they get their tag. I'd just like to your favorable consideration in this matter.
Mr. Mayor and Board, likewise to consider a motion here. I would move that pursuant to the authorization granted by state law, that the city approve a $50 ad valorem tax exemption for vehicle tags for those individuals, military personnel of whatever sort, serving on active duty in Iraq and Afghanistan.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Aye. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Appreciate your time.
Okay, it brings us down to the mayor's business, and the first item is that we have representatives of the GTR Airport here tonight to discuss a grant. How are you gentlemen this evening?
Fine. Good evening. As most of y'all know, Starkville is one of the 5 owners of the Golden Triangle Regional Airport. In fact, Starkville, when the airport was started, was the largest contributor of funds and to start the airport. So there's a long history with the city and the airport. But also, as you know, we have a deficit in our service, especially if you want to go westbound. Right now, the only air service out of the airport is on Delta Airlines or Delta Connection going through Atlanta. Since Northwest pulled out in 2003, we've been working to try to attract another airline back here to fill that gap and have some better westbound or some westbound service. We've been in serious negotiations with the airlines, and we have been able to obtain a grant from the U.S. Department of Transportation for $500,000 that would serve as a revenue guarantee for the airlines, where in effect we would guarantee them their losses in their first year of operation. The Department of Transportation, part of that is $500,000, but part of the grant requires a $150,000 community match. Of course, that would be spread out amongst the 5 owners of the airport. Back in '87, when the Airport Authority was formed, a formula was developed based on usage, really, for the communities to share. And Starkville's, short story is, Starkville's share of that would be 20%, or in this case of the $150,000, it'd be $30,000. Unfortunately, the airport cannot use operating funds for that match because it's a direct payment to the airlines, and that's basically illegal. However, as an incentive, added incentive for whatever airline we work with, the airport is pledging $75,000 in marketing funds, which is money I can spend to help the service. So what we're asking today, and I'm sorry, I forgot to mention, of course, Frank Childs, who's one of my bosses, he's your representative on the airport board, one of the 5 representatives, and y'all appointed him last year, and he's done a great job. as we continue to move forward. What we're asking today basically is a pledge from the city of Starkville for up to $30,000 as part of a match for the revenue guarantee grant from the Department of Transportation. That money would only be payable within 90 days after the first year of service, so it's not going to be in the near term. So once they start service, which normally takes 4 to 6 months after an announcement, so we're talking probably a minimum of 18 months out, then we would monthly report to you how they're doing. And at the end of the year, we figure out, did they gain or did they lose money? And if they did, we'll cover up to $650,000 of that. However, if we do it right, they'll make money, and we won't have to, the grant won't kick in, we won't have to pay anything, or they won't lose the full amount, and we'll cover up to that. As a follow-on to that, what our plan at the airport is once all the communities pledge, and the amount for the grant, is we will visit all the major users of the airport and ask them basically to underwrite that pledge. They're the ones, we can make a very good business case to show them where they're going to actually save money on their travel costs, and we'll be asking them to underwrite some of it. And in informal talks with them, we've had some pretty good success so far. So basically, like I said, we're asking for your support and a pledge for up to $30,000 at the end of the period after we do get another airline. And by the way, that's only for new nonstop service, and we would not use it for any eastbound service. It doesn't make sense. We have good service with Delta right now.
I might bring to you the board's attention that this is certainly related to economic development, and that we have approximately $230,000, I believe, that's earmarked for economic development, maybe a little bit more than that, but we did the horse park ventilation out of that particular monies. This would be another project that would require those funds. Here again, we'd only be earmarking this money for approximately 18 months, I believe is what you said.
Yes, sir.
And it may not have to be used.
If we do it right, it won't. I will address one question that has been asked a couple times, and that deals with the proposed merger that's out there right now. We don't know if Delta and Northwest were to merge. We don't know what they would look like. We don't know how it would affect any of our discussions with those airlines. But this is in the business, given the fact that oil hit $100 a barrel today and stayed there. The airline business is tough, and this right now is about the only way that airlines are expanding into communities our size, is to offer an incentive like this.
Any questions by anyone?
Mr. Hanson?
Sir.
If their first year, say they needed $400,000 to break even.
Right.
Would that come straight from the FAA, or would you break it out from all?
No, it's a cost share percentage.
Okay.
So they would take the 500, the 150 and 500, and then we would further cost share it amongst the communities.
Okay.
Equal appropriate percentages. Good question.
I just wanted to compliment Frank, when you came up, when we considered your appointment, you said your number one goal was to have a western route, and this is a very an incentive way to make that happen, and we appreciate that. And the mayor was right, this is an economic development issue. And
It is.
many of the companies that we're trying to locate here, air service is a big issue for them.
It
So
is.
this is outstanding.
When this country was settled, you settled towns along rivers. Then along came the railroads, the highways, and now we're talking about air transportation. This is the vital thing in economic development. And when I appeared before you initially, I said the Golden Triangle Regional Airport was an economic development tool. And I certainly believe that, and I certainly concur with what you have just said.
So do we have any motions? Did you put that in the form of a motion since you?
I think Max got it.
Oh, good. Oh, we'll have it.
Mr. Mayor and Board, following what we have just done in considering things as they are presented, I would move that the city pledge up to $30,000 as Starkville's share of the match required for the Small Community Air Service Development Grant, being extended by the U.S. Department of Transportation to the Golden Triangle Regional Airport. and that the funds come from designated economic development funds of the city of whatever sort.
Second.
Motion is second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, nay. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you
You have
for
our
support.
pledge
Thank
and
you, friends.
support.
Appreciate it.
The next item that we have in the mayor's business is the proposed modification to the Welcome to Starkville signs. And on your table, you will find the proposed modifications option 2. If you'll pull that out and take a look at that. In a day's meeting in which Sumter Davis and I were a part of, we were given a presentation of this, and the estimated cost for redoing these signs to make them attractive entrance to the city was approximately $37,000. They have intentions of giving these signs to the city. Is that to what you heard as well as me, Sumner?
Well, basically,
Basically.
more or less.
The county, with 2 of their supervisors, felt like that they could give approximately $9,000. I felt like that we would perhaps look at our economic 2% monies that we have. This is certainly economic development. Your signs usually tell how you feel about the community. And OCEDA suggested that they may give approximately $9,000. They have approximately $12,000 left over from where they did these signs before. I'm surprised they don't have more than that left over. But they have approximately $12,000. That would cover the redoing of all of the signs that we have out here. I feel like that if the city's going to assume responsibility of these things, they give them to us or whatever, that this would certainly be a good investment to get these signs redone. Then those of you that pass it with your riding passengers will not be asked anymore why you let that happen. Any questions?
Just one point of clarification, Mr. Mayor. The cost figure is on option 2, and it's a little bit more than what you said. It's $40,000, and then if you subtract 12, it would be OCEDA a third, the county a third, and the city a third, roughly $9,000, a little bit more.
Right.
But just for the sake of clarity on that.
It's
point.
not option 1, but it is option 2.
Right.
Mr. Mayor and Board, I would move that the city contribute up to $10,000
Up to 10, that's,
for its share, along with OCEDA and the county, for proposed modification number 2, option number 2, for a revamping of the existing welcome signs to the city of Starkville. I would note that if you could see the design and so forth, and anyone's welcome to take a look at it, a handsome design that fits in with the very handsome entrances to Mississippi State University that have been constructed. This will tie in nicely.
and this is a picture of the old sign. If you'll notice, these are daylilies, they're not daffodils. We have a motion. Do we have a second to the motion?
Mr. Mayor, I am not saying at this point that the city accepts anything for perpetual care and maintenance. That can come later.
Where they can approach us.
They can approach us with that, yes.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. All those opposed, nay. Thank you. The next item is under board business, and it's consideration and adoption of an events policy to include application process, authorization of an events committee, et cetera. And did I hear that we need to study this in 4 o'clock?
Go ahead.
Well, I'd certainly like to recommend to the board that we hear whatever presentation we might have tonight, but then we also have an infrastructure meeting on Tuesday at 4 o'clock. Is that correct? And that we would invite in some of the other participants to continue the discussion and have something with a recommendation at the next board meeting.
Okay.
But if
Do you-
you had something prepared,
Well, no, what I have is just to answer questions. This is the second time you've seen this. There are, there's no point in boring a board. If the infrastructure committee is gonna take it up, we can hash through it again. There may be some things that change, so if you want me to, I will, but, the point
I
is.
don't see any sense in it at this particular point. If the newspaper, Kelly, could make sure that that is noted, so any organization that might want to find out more about the policy, so forth, could attend next Tuesday's meeting.
Do I have a motion that we give this to infrastructure?
so moved.
Second.
Motion second that this goes with infrastructure. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, nay. All right, good. The next item is consideration of acceptance of interest for the vacant positions of Planning and Zoning Commission, the Board of Adjustments and Appeal, Recycling Committee, and making appointments here too. I believe at this particular point, we have 2 letters of interest for Planning and Zoning. We have Mr. Ben Bounds.
And I'm Sherry Farrell, I'm the other one.
Okay, good. In Ward 4, right?
Yes.
No, you got Joe Koch.
I thought Joe Koch was.
Yeah,
and
you're
he's not.
recycling committee, correct?
Yes, is that?
Yeah.
Okay.
We have
Wait a minute,
2 different openings to
Right.
discuss tonight.
We have 2 different openings tonight. One is the Board of, on the Planning and Zoning.
Sorry.
And Ben, you're here and Joe's not here. I think you have a letter of interest for that. Do you want to come up and have a seat? This is to complete the term of Lee Beck, I believe.
Yes, sir.
It's about a year and a half left on this board.
My name's Ben Bounds. I'm from Ward 4. I submitted a letter about a week ago for the consideration of the appointment to the position of Planning and Zoning Commissioner for the vacant seat in Ward 4. I'm a former Mississippi State student. I'm a 3-time Starkville resident. I'm involved in economic development right now, and my past work experience includes working with the media, locally the Starkville Daily News, as well as owning a business in Oxford for a few years before moving here. I have a little bit of experience in several different areas. I fit the demographic of our ward, Ward 4, which is the youngest ward in Starkville and probably the youngest ward in the state of Mississippi. So I have a very big interest in the economic development, beautification, annexation, and public services for Ward 4 and for the rest of the city of Starkville in Ithaca County. And I just wanted to come here this evening and offer up my request for the consideration of the position, and the rest is in y'all's hands. If y'all have any questions, I'd be glad to answer them.
We'll start this end of the board. Roy, you got any questions?
No question, Mr. Mayor. Just for the record, I want to make it clear, and I understand from the administrative assistant that the other applicant was notified in the form of the meeting, so
Okay.
we could go ahead and proceed, but no question to Mr. Bounds. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Matt,
No, sir.
Yeah.
PC?
Would you explain more fully exactly how you fit the demographics of Ward 4?
Well, the average age of Ward 4 is probably around 23 years old.
I don't think they count.
So,
Careful, man.
yeah, I'm a,
We know boomers that live in Ward 4 too.
absolutely. I just think Ward 4, because of its unique complexity and makeup, because it is such a young ward, that they need to be represented by somebody that's young, but that works in the professional ranks in Starkville, and somebody that's aggressive and progressive in their thinking as far as new development goes.
Okay.
Ron, you got any questions asked? Richard?
Ben, just real quick, in your time as a writer for the Starkville Daily, you also covered planning and
I
zoning?
covered planning and zoning commission meetings for about 13 months, as well as Board of Aldermen and several of the municipal committees, like Infrastructure and Budget Committee.
So you already have familiarity with
I have about 13 meetings worth of familiarity with the way the P&Z committee works, or commission works, as well as Board of Aldermen.
You sure you want to be a member of this thing after covering the meetings for how many years?
13 months, yes, sir, absolutely.
Okay. Ms. Self, do you have any questions?
No question.
Something? And,
Mayor.
Ms. Tindall, you said the other candidate was notified and he chose not to come. Mr. Cox, I'll just speak on his behalf for him. As you know, owns the bagel shop, also lives, in,
I thought you said my name. I'm sorry.
no, I thought I said Cox this direction.
I got you, sorry.
And has been in operation there for a number of years at this time. So those are the two candidates that have submitted letters at this time.
Mayor and Board, I had an opportunity to speak to both candidates. I think both are excellent candidates. I think both would serve the position well. But unfortunately, there's only one seat available at the moment for Ward 4, and so I have to make a choice. And I would like to go ahead and make a motion to officially approve the appointment of Ben Bounds to fill the remainder of the term for Ward 4 on Planning and Zoning.
Okay, do we have a second to that?
Second.
Motion is second. All those in favor say yea.
Yay.
All those opposed, nay. Mr. Bounds, you are now a member of the P&Z of Ward 4. Represent us well.
Thanks, sir, I will.
Our next appointment is that for the Board of Adjustments and Appeal. Is there one here?
Mayor, there's a position available in Ward 4, but no applicants yet, so
Okay, for that
I'll be in
particular.
the process of trying to find someone.
We'll maybe both need to work for that. Also, we have the Recycling Committee, and what was your area of interest?
Just, I actually just found out about it, and I'm very interested in recycling. It's one of my passions.
Well, come up here and talk to us. Don't be shy.
All right, my name is Sherry Farrell, and I moved here in August of 2006 to finish my degree, and I've been a house mom out on campus in that time. And one of the things that I noticed is that recycling is not very prevalent around here. And I'd like to see it, you know, there's the big green movement going on. And so I'd like to do what I can to help it move along, help the area move along in
Do you
that
know what ward that
area.
you live in right
I
now?
believe it's 5, but I'm not
5.
positive.
This guy's your alderman over here?
Nice to meet you.
Would some of the board members like to ask her questions pertaining to her interest in being on the recycling committee?
Did you all receive my letter of interest?
We did.
Okay.
I have a question, but did you want to start from one side and move on?
Doesn't matter, you go ahead.
In Illinois, where you're from, what kind of recycling initiatives did they have available, like curbside recycling or just?
We had curbside, and that's part of the thing is that I went through probably about 10 years of the things that didn't work. And they finally hit on something that actually did. And the one that actually did at the end was that you have to have a separate recycling truck, so that would be something that would have to be approved financially. But and what finally worked is having people put their things out in one big container with the plastics, the cardboards, the papers, and the aluminum, and the people who drove the trucks actually just took them and separated them out. We went through the brown bag, we went through the blue bag, and those were, okay, but this last one actually worked. Cut most people down to 1 to 2 bags of garbage a week. And because Mississippi, at least this part, has the twice-a-week pickup, is that correct? Is that all over? I thought it would be very easy to transition to, on one day, they'd put out their garbage, and on the other day, put out the recycling. You wouldn't be using any more gas or any more time, so.
Okay, so do I hear a motion that we accept her letter of interest for one of the members that we've not yet had other citizens to apply for this area of interest?
We have.
Okay, excuse me then.
Charlotte Fuqua lives in Plantation Homes, and she wasn't able to be here with us tonight, but expressed her interest. If you know, in Plantation Homes, they have a neighborhood-driven recycling effort once a month. They do curbside pickup, and it's been going on for years, and it's highly successful, and she'd be another outstanding candidate on the recycling committee.
So are you making this in the form of a motion?
I would move that we would appoint Sherry Farrell and Charlotte Fuqua as citizen representatives to the newly formed recycling committee.
Do we have a second to that?
I'll second.
Any further discussion?
No discussion, Mayor, just a question. Someone refresh me on the exact composition of this committee.
At the previous meeting, a motion was made and approved to create a 5-member committee with Stan Sheridan, 2 citizens, and I believe 2 aldermen.
Okay.
And I think in the meantime that it would show a conflict of interest with Mr. Sheridan to be a part of this. Am I not right, Ms. Brewer? Is that correct?
My thought was that we would need 3 citizens.
3 citizens.
Right, and Mr. Sheridan and Ms. Boyd would both serve as, Ms. Boyd would be staff liaison, Mr. Sheridan would serve as a resource. And we had 2 aldermen.
And I don't think we've selected Alderman yet, have we? Okay.
I'd be happy to raise my hand. I know other people are pretty passionate about this too on the board.
Well, actually, I'm sorry, we did discuss the fact that we had the recycling committee and we were missing one member, so.
We're called the Trash Committee.
2, well, yes, we're talking about.
I know.
And
We got one tonight.
I think Alderman Shawn and
And we appointed Rodney, I thought, for that, didn't we, Rodney?
Last meeting.
Yeah,
Regular meeting.
okay.
but of the, if it's gonna be 2 aldermen, then it might very well be one of those.
Or could be the whole rat team.
The whole rat team will make it up.
But in any case, let's deal with this and we'll deal with that.
Now, we have a motion and we have a second that we appoint these 2 people to this committee. Any further discussion? If not, we'll vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Thank you, ma'am. Thank
Thank
you
you.
for your willingness to serve on a
Nice to
committee
meet you.
within the city.
But we still have one, so we would still have one slot open for the recycling committee, so we'll
Yes.
continue to take.
Yes, and so I think you will continue to take Eric letters of interest to that. This brings down to item E. We're calling for a public hearing at March 4th Board of Aldermen meeting for the purpose of adoption of administrative adjudication process. This would be for the hearing officer, and we need a motion to set this into a public hearing process.
So moved.
We have motion and second. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, nay. Brings us down to the next item, is approval of payment of $79,000. This would be your infrastructure thing. You want to take a moment here at this, to report out, this is an infrastructure item,
Oh, we certainly could.
because we don't have a place on there to talk about infrastructure.
Well, we have it, I believe.
Are you sure?
We may not have.
I don't think
No,
so.
we do not.
So let's, we're okay. We can use this item here to, because it's a infrastructure item.
Leapfrog into that.
Yeah.
Mr. Mayor and Board, the Infrastructure Committee met this afternoon. And you'll recall the Infrastructure Committee composed of Alderman Perkins, Cox, and I. The press was in attendance. One of the department heads, Ms. Sharon Boyd, came in and sat with us to listen to the discussion. We talked about a number of things. One or two of the others are on the agenda at certain points, so we will just go directly into one of the items. You will recall the city engineer giving to the board a revised list, the newest list, and he has been giving us one each year of the streets that need particular attention in the city of Starkville, as well as drainage projects. He's been prioritizing these projects, and the city has been chipping away as funds permitted on the list of streets. We, of course, have much more to do than we have funds to do them, but we continue to want to make progress with regard to the City of Starkville Street and Drainage Program. The committee with the city engineer reviewed the particular priority ratings that he had given to the streets, and for all practical purposes, with a little bit of exception here, chose to go with the city engineer's recommendation of certain priority projects without really consideration as to the ward they were in or anything, just simply things that needed to be done that the city engineer recommended as a number one priority. Alderman Cox and Perkins, if you will follow along, and let's make sure we get a very specific list of these. The first of these that was recommended as a priority is a striping and patching of Airport Road from Highway 12 to Miley Drive, the estimated cost being $14,000 plus the cost of patching. The second item was Collier Drive, but not a complete resurfacing of Collier Drive, a patching of the 6 to 7, according to the city engineer, spots in the road with a soil cement and an overlay. The zipper machine, as he describes it, that the city has to zip these places. And so essentially we're talking about approaching Collier Drive as a maintenance project with using city forces, the zipper machine, but just in the spots that are indicated and designated by the city engineer. The cost of the entire road is prohibitive, given the traffic and residents located on the road, but we want to do those things necessary to give them a completely accessible road. The third item was Industrial Park Road from Highway 12 to Lynn Lane. This is a patching, an overlay, and a striping at a cost of approximately $87,000. The next street was Jackson Street from Main to Highway 12. A restriping of that street at a cost of some $13,500. Next, Louisville Street from Highway 12 to Academy Road, a minimum treatment, mainly a striping, at a cost of approximately $18,200. South Montgomery Street, a small 650-foot portion from Loxley Way to Lynn Lane, an overlay of proper patching base, so forth, at a cost of some $20,150. North Montgomery Street from Old Highway 82, Highway 182 to Kreitz, with a treatment, a milling and some patching and some overlay of some $30,000 estimate. Is that correct, Bill? Yes. Reed Road from Garrett Road to the city limits, a leveling and overlaying of that particular road, some almost 11,000 feet at a cost of $72,000. Considerable discussion, Ms. Self, of a road that you and I, as well as others, but you and I have particular interest in, Yellow Jacket Drive. And we have put that on hold pending a determination of exactly what the school will be doing with some possible relocation of that road and so forth, but we will return to that at a later date once we understand exactly what is happening to that particular road from 25 to Eggford Drive, which we are not sure yet, but we will return to that one. And also the number one priority that we decided to put on hold pending more information. With regard to drainage projects, two bridges, a bridge on Old West Point Road, Bill identified the exact location. There are two out there, but this is the first one that you come to.
Before you get to Clyde T's.
Right.
Well, before you get to Fast Station Road. It's not the one at Fast Station, it's the one before.
Okay. With a appropriate reworking of that bridge at an approximate cost of $30,000. Then the Tabor Street Bridge, ditch, I'm sorry. Collapsing, a Tabor Street drainage ditch, at a cost of approximately $25,000. And then the small project located exactly where, on Natchez Street that we have discussed before, a project of, if you will recall, LaFleur Street, a project of, that there has been considerable board discussion of $1,500. Those projects take approximately $315,000 of the $350,000 in the budget for projects of this sort. Of course, keep in mind, we're still looking at an estimated cost and a multitude of streets on here that all of us are interested in trying to see done at $1.3 million. But this is all that we can tackle, and all of these, the recommendation of the city engineer as the number one priority. Leaving a contingency of some 10% for any cost overrun, or hopefully the addition of some other projects. Does that summarize? Did I miss anything on the list?
You want to put that in the form of a motion?
And these projects are in addition to any rollover work from last year which have not been completed yet.
Exactly. It has nothing to do with our rollover from last year, which you, Ms. Self, I, others, Alderman Corey, others are waiting on to complete. Has nothing to do with that money at all. And so I would move approval of this street and drainage work budgeted in this year's budget to begin as quickly as weather permits.
Second.
Motion and second. You've heard the proposal. We'll now vote. All in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, nay. What are your next item you have on there? And that's this underground.
Okay. In addition, I would point out that inherent in all this and budgeted and so forth, but not specifically mentioned, are the continuance of the ADA compliance measures that we're taking year by year that has been previously approved and budgeted and divided among the fiscal years. The second thing that the committee considered was the continuing discussion of the installation of underground utilities essentially in front of the airport. You will recall, the hospital. You will recall the previous discussion that the cost had risen significantly since the project was first discussed. You recall the discussion about the hospital agreeing to pay a third, the county perhaps agreeing to pay a third, and the city to consider paying a third of the cost. Both the hospital and Oktibbeha County have agreed to pay their respective thirds. So now up for consideration is the payment of the city's third of the cost. The cost estimate in round numbers being $80,000. We essentially were updated on this project. It is our understanding that the bid on the project continues to be good. So the bid that we had relative to a 240,000 round numbers project, the contractor says is still a good and valid bid. So we bring for your consideration the city's participation in this particular project. Two members of the committee spoke of their disappointment in the increased cost of the project, but of their support for the hospital and the provision of health care to our city, particularly in terms of the helicopter transportation. So we bring simply to open for discussion the question of the city's payment of its 1/3 of this project, the cost being approximately, round numbers, $80,000.
Might say that the hospital has already agreed to this figure, and so have the Board of Supervisors. So it's kind of in our lap at this particular point.
Ms. Self?
I would just like to make a motion that we, the city, pay our share, which would be 1/3 of the cost, in the amount of $79,836.22 for the placement of the utility wiring at the Oktibbeha County Hospital.
Second.
We have a motion and a second.
Just as a possible friendly amendment, or maybe it's just a reminder that our share of that cost, a good portion of it will be in kind and not as an actual check written as part of that. Is that still accurate, Ed?
Right, this project to be coordinated and in large degree borne by our electric department.
Okay, so I was reading the amount that was before me.
Yes, ma'am.
So you may amend it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Let's vote on this by raising your hand. All those in favor of this motion, please raise your hand. All those opposed? Go on and jump over here now to this cat lead.
Pushy, aren't you?
Yeah, I am. I don't know if this thing goes 12 o'clock.
Yeah, let's
Well, going through this one thing, doing the committee report.
the mayor is awfully pushy tonight. Mr. Devlin, if you would come up, the mayor wants to go on and consider the other thing we talked about in committee and get all that out of the way, and I understand some logic there, I guess. The point for discussion is a recommended increase in tap fees for the city. Mr. Devlin has coordinated this and will make a presentation.
You should have in your packets a cover sheet with, I think maybe 2 or 3 pages attached to it. We put our annual source supply contract out for bids and opened them and tabulated them. There was a significant increase in the price of water meters over last year. What we're being told, it's due to increases in the price of brass, which are used to make the meter housings. So what I wanted to do is go ahead and get with y'all and recommend new tap fees, at least to make sure we cover that cost. And then also the portion of our tap fee that involves equipment mobilization and labor. I went ahead and increased those by 5% to cover employee raises, which amounted to 5% this past the beginning of this fiscal year, and also the prices in fuel being higher, beginning of this fiscal year than probably the same period last year, and just to give us a cushion on that. Probably 90% of our taps for water and sewer are the two sizes that I put on the front of your cover sheet. And what it does is it just summarizes those two items, water and the sewer, showing you the amount of the increase in dollars and also in percentage. You can see on the 3/4 water meter, the price of that one item, the meter has increased 21%. So that's a pretty significant increase. And then putting along with that the 5% increase in the installation and mobilization and labor, that's a net increase of 7.2% for that water tap. And then the 4-inch sewer tap, which is probably 90% of the taps we make. Not any significant increase in material costs, but went ahead and added the 5% to the installation portion, which is mobilization, fuel, and labor. So the net increase there is 5%. So with that, Mr. McLaurin, did I?
That
Okay.
gets it, unless anyone has any questions. The committee would recommend this, what is becoming pretty much an annual adjustment, given increased cost of material, of fuel, labor, so forth, pretty much an annual adjustment in.
The passage of time. We have shared your joy at the birth of your children, and proudly we have watched them grow. We've taken care of your health care needs during the good times and the not so good. Your parents and grandparents have depended upon us. Together we have shared the struggles and the wonders of life. At Oktibbeha County Hospital, we are celebrating 30 years of being your lifelong choice in health care.
Mr. Mayor, we got 4 items this evening from the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting last night. The first one is item PR 08-01, which is a request by Mr. Shelton Jones for a site plan approval for Starkville High School located at 605 Yellow Jacket Drive in an R2 single-family duplex zone in Ward 3. The applicant is proposing a 14,600 square foot addition to the high school. The new building will be located along the south side of Yellow Jacket Drive. The applicant is also proposing modifications to Yellow Jacket Drive to include a separate drop-off lane and covered walkway area. The drop-off lane will be separated by a raised median. The city department heads have approved the site plan as proposed. The Planning and Zoning Commission unanimously recommended approval of the site plan as proposed with standard conditions provided by staff.
Any questions? We have a motion.
Move approval of the site plan as submitted by the architect Shelton Jones for Starkville High School, which is in an R2 zoning district located at 605 Yellow Jacket Drive in Ward 3 with standard conditions included.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, no. Next item, please.
The next item is PR 08-02. It's a request by Mr. Jimmy Smith for a site plan approval for the proposed Social Security Administration building at 1089C Stark Road in a C2 General Commercial Zone, General Business Zone in Ward 1. The proposal is for a 6,480 square foot building on a 1.17 acre site for general office use. The site plan and landscape plan both meet the city's requirements. The applicant has met the minimum parking requirements, including handicapped accessible spaces, and the dumpster enclosure has been approved by the sanitation department. An executed hold harmless agreement has been provided to the sanitation department as well. The city department heads have approved the site plan as proposed. The Planning and Zoning Commission unanimously recommended approval of the site plan as proposed with standard conditions provided by staff.
Any questions?
I move approval as presented by Mr. Ritter.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion and approval. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, nay. Next item, please.
The next item is FP 08-01 is a request by Mr. Davy McReynolds for a final plat approval for Roberts Cove located northeast of the intersection of McKinley and Yates Street in a PUD Plan Unit Development Zoning District in Ward 7. The final subdivision plat is for a 12-lot development of single-family residences on a 2.57 acre site. The preliminary plat received approval on June 19th of last year. The internal roadway will be privately maintained and will not be dedicated to the city. A note referencing this has been placed on the plat. Electrical service will be placed underground and all utility easements have been dedicated to the city. Instead of the originally proposed dumpster, the development will now receive curbside trash collection. An executed hold harmless agreement has already been provided to the sanitation department. Restrictive covenants, which include the city's standard hold harmless language, were approved along with the PUD, and the covenants will be recorded at the Chancery Clerk's office. A note referencing this has also been placed on the plat. The city department heads have approved the final subdivision plat as proposed, and the Planning and Zoning Commission unanimously recommended approval of the final plat as proposed with standard conditions provided by staff.
Ben, is the trash collection on Yates, or is it off of the private drive?
It's off the private drive, it'll be curbside. They had originally proposed a dumpster, and then after the layout was provided and the trucks tested to make sure they could make the radius, the curved radius inside, so it'll be curbside collection.
But we're gonna bring in, Jan, we're gonna bring in a heavy truck into that area, and do we not have any exposure from that standpoint of affecting their private drive with a large piece of equipment?
They signed a hold harmless agreement.
And they also, the road it's concrete, it's not asphalt.
Well, they'll tear up too unless they have a lot of steel in it.
But that's why we have them sign the hold harmless agreement, number one. And then number two, we require them on the plat. It says that that'll remain a private drive. So they're gonna be responsible for it. But we do have them, that's why the hold harmless agreement's in effect.
Okay.
Because we contemplate those type things may happen, and so if they want that service and they want.
Thank you.
Do I hear a motion that we approve this?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay.
Nay.
Nay. Let's do a show of hands. All those in favor, show your hand, please. Who in favor? In favor. All those opposed? Oh, 3-3. You didn't vote.
Getting ready to.
All right, we'll do something.
Oh, I understand, my colleague's hesitance on the private drive thing. It, has been my experience that all the hold harmless and all this is fine. Once things of this sort get built, the residents will be talking about the sanitation trucks tearing up the road, and the city needs to come fix them and all this kind of thing. Mr. Favor, do you think that even if that should be the case, the city is adequately protected?
I think we're adequately protected pursuant to the hold harmless agreement that I drafted. Now, this is the same issue that's come up since I've been the city attorney, and all we can do, all myself and Ben can do, and the Planning and Zoning Commission and the Building Department, is to put on the plat that this will remain a private drive. That's the most that I can think of to do, except putting it in the restricted covenants. And we've asked them to do that too, and understand that. And I'm not gonna sit here and say in 10 years, they're not gonna come back and ask the city to take the street over, because Alderman Davis can sit here and give me 5 examples of how that's happened. But from a legal standpoint, that's the most that we can do, that I've been able to come up that we can do to stop that from happening.
is there a requirement that deeds to the property contain this? Of course, they will refer to restricted covenants and so forth.
They'll refer to the restrictive covenants, and also the deeds refer to the plat also. You know, anything identifying that particular lot would have to be referred back to the plat, so it's gotta be contained in their deed to get the correct legal description. Now, if they choose to not read it, that's their problem. You can't come back later and say, I didn't know.
Right. Of course, the politics of the situation 10 years hence is yet another story.
That's something I can't plan for.
Ron, do you have any guidance or thoughts on what criteria that we can use to approve or deny a final plat? I know with the rezoning, there's very specific criteria that we need to look at when we make a decision, and just wondering what guidance you have on a final plat.
Well, you know, you've got the staff report that's detailed and tells you whether it's in compliance with all of our regulations, and Ben made some very specific recommendations regarding that, and I can't improve upon what he's done. And all I can tell you is from a legal standpoint, we've done all we can do because y'all have expressed these concerns. We drafted an agreement that everybody has to sign, and we've made them put it on their plats, and so that's all I can do. I mean, that's all that I know to do, and that's all I know to give y'all advice on what to do and whether in your decision-making process, whether you approve these or not. I mean, that's all we can do. We make it very clear to the developers when they come in for the final plat. It's a condition that's put in their report. I mean, it's talked about. Ben reminds them. I remind them. Pointed out to them on their proposed final plat. And, you know, we're doing the best that we can to try to prevent those type things from happening in the future. But you have to remember, back when Alderman Davis was bringing these things up, that didn't happen in the past. Those things weren't on the plat. They weren't included on the plat. We didn't make them put it in restricted covenants. And we didn't have them sign hold harmless agreements. So, you know, we've been proactive in trying to prevent what's happening in the future. We can't go back and deal with what was not done in the past. So those things that are coming forward now don't have these safeguards, did not have these safeguards that we've put in place built in then. And so y'all have been as proactive as you can to try to prevent this and make these requirements, but it wasn't done in the past. I'm not being critical of past boards or anybody. I'm just saying it wasn't done, and so our situation that'll be presented later on with our safeguards built in are not in place right now. When these situations happen where people are asking, there's a problem with our road, and they're asking us to come in and take it over or fix it. So.
In the past, some of those safeguards were there. The whole harmless agreements were not. But it becomes the politics of the situation. In any case, on this situation, I'm of the opinion that the place to deal with this is at the preliminary plat stage, not at the final plat stage. So I will vote in favor of approving the plat.
And just
It
may I?
passes, yes. Do you have a question?
No, I just wanted to speak to that we knew this when we voted, when we gave them permission for the, when they presented the first plat, the plenary.
The preliminary?
The preliminary. And we gave them permission. And now to sit here tonight and say, well, oh no, we changed our mind. You've gotten all these houses up and we changed our mind and we're not going to let you finish what you started. I just don't think that would be the right thing to do.
Nor do I.
Mr. Mayor.
So that's why I have to vote in favor of this. We
Well,
knew that it was going to be private.
He's voting in
street.
favor of it. We've all voted it passes with a 4-3 decision, so it's voted on. Let's go to your next item.
Mr. Mayor, just as a comment, I believe Alderman Perkins was fixing to make it. He and I both voted against the preliminary plat to begin
Thank you,
with,
gentlemen.
so-
Thank you,
I
gentlemen.
know you did,
Thank
and
you.
I respect that. And I respect that. I know that you did.
Yeah, I knew that. I knew that you had, and I thought that you had too, Roy.
Yes, sir.
So
Thank you. Yes, sir.
that's understandable.
Yes,
Your next
sir.
item, please.
The next item is FP 08-02, which is a request by Mr. Larry Bradley for a final plat approval for University Flats located at 105 Old West Point Road in a C2 General Business Zoning District in Ward 5. This is a final plat for University Flats, a 3-story, 9-unit condo development on a 0.49 acre site. The development received a special exception use approval for the C2 zoning district. Existing and proposed easements have been provided on the plat. A maintenance access agreement to the adjacent cemetery has been provided to the First Presbyterian Church as required by the special exception use approval. The developer has also provided a concrete ramp to assist in maintenance of the cemetery. The city department heads have approved the final subdivision plat as proposed, and the Planning and Zoning Commission unanimously recommended approval of the final plat as proposed with standard conditions provided by staff.
Any questions? It's the 3-story, somewhat New Orleans-looking facility on Old West Point Road. It's condos, I believe.
Yes, sir.
Move approval as presented, Mr. Mayor.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Motion is to approve with a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Thank you. Office of City Clerk. First item is approval of the claims docket for the city.
Good evening, Mayor and Board. My first item is the claims docket for the city, and it is inclusive of Parks and Recreation.
It does include Parks and Rec?
But I've separated Park and Recs out also.
Exclusive.
No, it is inclusive also. Right, but I've separated the claims docket for Parks and Rec out for you to view. So I'm asking that our software won't let me exclude the Parks and Rec software. It won't with the other departments. So if you look at the claims docket, the Parks and Recs is included in the cities, but I've also separated it out.
Ms. Outlaw, I guess you can consider this a friendly question, but I'm confused. All right, on the agenda, there are 2 separate claim items. Okay, but on the first one, that the city claims docket, we have Parks and Recreation included, and then on the next one, we have Parks and Recreation. So why do we have 2 separate dockets if the Parks and Recreation going to be included in the first one? That's what I'm trying to get an understanding of.
Okay, well, that's why I brought it up, because I do want you to approve the city's claims, because the software wouldn't let me pull just the city and leave Park and Recs out. I had to pull all of them.
Okay, well now, since we do have, I wasn't intending to have a discussion, but I just got confused. All right, since the Parks and Recreation is in part of the city's claim docket, and then we have a separate claim docket for Parks and Recreation, what's the problem? Why would we not have a separate claims docket? I wasn't intending to discuss this until we got including both ones. So why do we have a separate claims docket tonight? That's what I want to know.
Well, it was just recommended that we have the 2 claims docket.
Recommended by whom?
The city attorney. We went over this and thought that it would be, I want to say
I recommended that, Alderman Perkins.
Okay, why? What's the problem?
It's come to my attention that the Parks and Recreation Commission may not be in compliance with all their requirements, and therefore I felt that the board should be made aware of that, and also that the board should have the opportunity to have approved both together, or each one separately, or one and not the other.
Mr. Mayor, let me ask you just a few questions, if you bear with me.
Go ahead.
You said that the Park and Recreation may not be. Okay, may not be, it's not definitive.
It appears that the Parks and Recreation Commission is not following the prerequisites necessary.
Again, we say appears. Can you tell me the concrete evidence that supports separating these 2? We use the word may be, appears. I want some solid evidence.
There's no claims docket approved by the minutes of the Parks and Recreation Commission.
For what period of time? Where's the evidence?
I don't know, going back to 2005, I thought that'd been presented to you, but I think going back to 2005. And I became aware of this, and my responsibility to the board is to make you aware of these things, and that's what I've done.
Ms. Allo, is that your understanding that the Park Commission has not officially approved all these transactions from 2005 consecutively up to now?
Yes, that's correct.
Have you looked at every set of the minutes from 2005 up to the present to support that determination?
From the Park Commission?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, no, I just spoke with the author of the minutes.
So to answer my question, you have not reviewed the minutes, you just get what somebody told you?
Yes, that's
Okay.
right.
So you can't verify then that that the Park Commission has not approved this, because you look at the author, the preparer of the minutes.
Right, that's right. I spoke to the one that prepared the minutes and was told that, no, we don't put them on there.
So have we had any legal problems? We've been, ever since we turned this Park Commission over, the parks over to the Park Commission, I think there was the last term been discussed basically since I've been on the board. So are you aware of any legal problem that has arisen as a result of putting both sets into one claims docket?
No, I'm not aware of any.
Well, then, would you agree with me then that, you don't have any basis to support a recommendation that we separate the Park Commission claims docket out of the regular claims docket?
Well, no.
Well,
But I think what it was is really just to clarify or to make the board aware of, what the Park Commission or what the Park and Recreation Department is doing.
The bottom line, Madam Clerk, I'm not trying to give you a hard time, but yeah, I don't want to be taking action based on speculation, maybe or might be, probably. If we don't have no concrete evidence, then we need to continue to do what we've been doing unless there's a legal problem. And of course, I support you in your efforts to do the right thing. Don't misunderstand me. I'm not trying to grill you or give you a hard time, but that raised a red flag. I wasn't even intending to say anything tonight, but when I saw you present the city claim docket with Park and Recreation, then we told we got a separate claim docket for Park and Recreation, and then each set of claim docket has something on Park and Recreation, so it don't add up. So
Okay.
I'm not satisfied that we need to separate this out based on for what I'm hearing so far.
Okay. Well, and like I said, I think it was just really to clarify or to make the board aware. There was no, just to keep the Park Commission with everything that was going on with the Park Commission.
And one final thing, Mr. Mayor, I'm gonna say, I'm gonna yield the floor, of course, there's been a lot of a discussion about the Park Commission, but I'm not in favor of doing this just because of a maybe or probably or a might. And of course, I haven't not heard anything from you nor the city attorney that nails it down. He said maybe or appears, you see, so.
No, I said that there is no, I'll make it clear. I said
ahead.
there, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but Alderman Perkins, there's no board minutes approving these claims.
Commission minutes.
Commission minutes approving these claims on this claim docket. I'm speaking about past history also, but I'm talking about these claims that are presented here. There's no commission minutes approving these claims. I can say that definitively.
Mr. Mayor, I yield the floor.
Mr. Mayor, I'm not as smart as some of these people. So 2 weeks ago, we were presented with a claims docket that had office supplies for the Park and Rec Department, which the board looked at, voted on, and approved. And so this week, we have office supplies for the Park and Rec Department, and now we're saying that that process wasn't followed. And is this I'm struggling to understand, for the 3 years that we've been here, we as a board, much like we do for the other functions of the city, we have looked at this claims docket, and we have approved the expenditures made on behalf of, or for the benefit of the city. So where is the difference now that it was office supplies that we approved last week, it's office supplies this week? What's the difference?
The difference is that by law, their commission It's just like the airport board used to come to us with all the expenditures. Did you not, Rodney?
That's correct.
And make recommendations to us on, with your minutes and approval of the board, for the expenditures. And obviously, the Parks and Rec have not been doing this. And so, they're beginning to say, look at the procedures, that we've been ignorant in regard to approving this with both of them, be quite frank with you.
But it sounds like if.
Doesn't
Are you
sound like
suggesting,
anything,
Rodney,
but
that-
ignorance of the law is no excuse not to be in compliance with the law.
Are you suggesting, Rodney, that the Park and Rec Commission is supposed to be approving this $85 charge for office supplies on their own and not ever come to the Board of Aldermen?
No, I'm saying that the minutes of their meetings, they're supposed to have a claims docket, just like we have a claims docket.
So
Those
why does it
minutes
come
are-
to us after they've approved it? You know, that's what I'm struggling with. Why does that $85 charge for office supplies have to be, as you're describing it, approved there and then approved again at the
Well,
board level?
It goes through the municipal depository. It doesn't necessarily have to be, what I'm saying is that it goes through the municipal depository by law.
And can I
Go
say
ahead.
something else? Also, because before I can write the check, this board you have to approve it.
Well, and that's what I'm struggling with. If we're the ultimate authority here in the city, the elected body, and last week we approved it, and this week we're presented to, I don't understand what the difference is, whether,
Well, and I think it was just to inform this board that that it had not gone through the Park Commission yet. And that's, when Rodney and I talked about it, that's kind of how it hadn't gone through the Park Commission, and he wanted to have it separate so you could know that,
That it had not been approved by the
Right.
commission in their minutes. And if you want to go ahead and approve it with that knowledge, that's certainly your prerogative as the board members in charge of the city. But my obligation is to let you know about these things so that if there's any individual liability, that you're aware of it.
but if we're the ultimate liability regardless, is someone suggesting that the $85 in office supplies was somehow misappropriated, was somehow purchased for incorrect purposes? And did the Park Commission go out and order these, or did we, through the city, through Clark Roman, order these supplies? And I think the answer was yes, we as a city, Clark Roman, ordered those supplies.
Can I, to answer a couple of your questions, I think, to the best of my knowledge and understanding, last term, when we went to a more independent park commission, I believe that the city, because of their funds having to go to the municipal depository and also their limited staff, said that the city clerk's office would function to basically cut their checks and handle their deposits and these types of things, which you've been doing, correct?
That's correct.
All right. So for her to cut checks on their behalf, it has to be on our claims docket for them to cut checks, correct?
That's correct.
Now, in light of recent things that have been coming up in discussions, there's been a hard look placed upon the statutory requirements of the city and the Park Commission. One of those is that they are supposed to, once they get their appropriation from us, they are supposed to function in the same manner in which we do concerning purchases, claims dockets, and cutting checks, which I think answers your question as to why this claims docket for the Park and Rec has been pulled out and separated from the regular city claims docket, correct?
That's right.
Is that correct, Mr. Faber?
Correct.
And so, while we tried to, last term, basically help them out with their duties, they still have a responsibility to follow the same purchasing procedures and adopt a similar claims docket to what we do. And I think that is the point that is being made today. So, does that help any?
Well, it does. I just wonder, but it's not a technical question. I'm wondering why we're having this conversation around this table and instead having the city clerk and the city attorney sit down with the Park and Rec Commission. I mean, that seems to be the appropriate place for this conversation.
To that, I cannot answer.
Well, I can say that I've spoken with the person that does the minutes in the Park and Recreation Department and asked her to have her claims before the Park Commission. And she's assured me that, you know, this next Park Commission meeting, she will do that.
Is that a city employee who does the minutes, or is that a park?
It's a city employee.
Park Commission
It's a Park
employee,
Commission employee.
not necessarily a
Well,
city, is it?
Park and Recreation employee.
And do we payroll it, and do we do all this
we
through
do the
our own
payroll.
city clerk's office?
Yes, yes.
Still a Park Commission employee.
That's correct.
Okay, Park Commission employee.
And is it not also required by law for the Park Commission for anything over $25,000 to make an appearance before this board and request payment?
No.
It's
No.
not?
No.
No, we have an ordinance in effect
That requires
that
it?
requires any purchases over $25,000 to be approved by this board. It was approved in 2003.
It's a resolution.
Resolution.
And have we ever had any of those approvals made?
No, I don't think so, I don't think so.
But yet our airport commission does that all the time.
Yes.
They're not
They-
under a similar state statute, Mr. Mayor.
I realize that. Any further questions?
It's my daughter.
So, Ms. Outlaw, are you asking for approval of the city's claim docket excluding those items enumerated for the Park
For
and
the
Rec
Park and Rec.
claims docket?
That's correct.
I'd be willing to make a motion for I'm going to really make a motion for both, but I'll do them separately since they're on the agenda.
Okay, and there again, now, it's the board's discretion as to whether they want me to separate the claims or not. We just thought that it would just be better to have them separated.
It makes a lot of sense. I remember one time in which we had a Sears and Roebuck freezer bought on the behalf of the Parks and Rec, did we not?
That's correct.
And did we not have to investigate to see if that was done on private funds for a private individual or not?
That's right.
Let me just preface before I make my motions that one thing Matt said earlier that kind of rang true is, are we really asking whether or not, say, the $80 for office supplies is being misappropriated? And without the proper documentation, there's sort of that question left hanging there. But I'm going to assume and trust that the Park Commission is doing a good job in handling their business, and hope that in the future, especially in light of this, that they will do what we need of them, which is simply just some verification of these purchases. But I don't think that they have, at least in this docket, been misusing any of these funds. And so I'd be willing to motion approval of the claims docket for the city, and I'll then follow that up with a subsequent motion later on for the parks as well.
Do we have a second to that motion?
Second.
Motion and second that we approve the claims docket for the city. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay.
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 The next item, Richard.
I'd like to move approval of the claims docket in relation to the Parks Commission as of February 14, 2008.
Can we amend that to authorize the city clerk to write checks on behalf of the Park Commission?
Sure, I'll incorporate that as a friendly amendment.
Okay.
Based upon the appropriate documentation. I tried to tell you.
All those in favor of approval of the Park Commission, please raise your hand for our claims.
Did you second the motion, Tim?
I did.
You did. 1, 2, 3. How many of you are with Five. Five. All those opposed? Your next item is a request for a budget amendment.
Okay, and Alderman Cox, you have the,
I'll be happy to. This is the first budget amendment for fiscal year 07-08. This is basically a housekeeping document. It reflects changes that we as a board have approved during the fiscal year that was unanticipated at the original budget time. It also reflects additional revenues that were received from the TV cable franchise through our recent renegotiation, as well as other grants and other items. And what you will see there is that if you have a revenue for a grant, you will typically see an offsetting equal expense item there. I will note that with the final accounting of the last budget year, and as a result of the final accounting that was approved by our accounting firm, Watkins Ward, we did have $51,341 of additional revenue that we were able to plug back into the ending fund balance, which will put in an ending fund balance of $445,000 approximate dollars. And this was presented, the city accountant put this together for us. And if there aren't any questions, then I'd move approval of the budget amendment number 1 for fiscal year 08.
Second.
Motion with a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, nay. Okay, Roger, tell us about this ladder repair. You have a truck to run in another one?
No, sir. Mayor and Board, I've got one item remaining under Fire Department business, and that's the requesting for authorization of payment for repairs to Ladder 2 in the amount of $7,895.07 to Sufton Towers Incorporated of Hilliard, Ohio. The cost, this cost is to repair the transfer case in this truck. It's a 1986 ladder truck, of which we currently operate 2 ladder districts in the city, and it is one of the trucks servicing one of those ladder districts. It operates out of Station 2 on Academy Road.
Was this a foreseen repair?
No, sir. This broke on us to where it actually followed another repair that we had incurred.
Matt, is this something that had to come out of the general fund, I gather?
We have existing funds in the shop repair line item for
That
that.
can take care of this?
Yes,
Fire
sir.
department budget.
Well, that's just, he said he ain't got any money left. Do we hear a motion on this repair?
Oh, Mr. Mayor and Board, I would move that the Board of Aldermen find as fact that the repair to Ladder 2, the 1986 Sutphen, in the amount of $7,895.70 was an emergency repair necessary to be undertaken for public health, welfare, safety of the citizenry, and that this repair item and payment for the emergency repair be approved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Thank you, Roger.
Thank you.
Police Department,
As the chief's come up on that budget amendment, someone had asked a question earlier about, does last year's capital improvement funds, are they protected and roll over? And that was very specific in this, that all the unexpended items do roll into this year's capital improvements for those remaining projects.
Mr. Mayor, while the chief comes up, Mr. Budget Chairman, did you get the correct figures you need for this item number 3 to get approved?
I sure did. I'd move approval of, to allow Chief Lindley and Captain Thomas to attend the Mississippi chapter of the FBI NAA Spring Training Conference at a total cost of $560.
Second.
we have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Okay, David, talk to us about the matching funds of $10,138.
All right, first of all, I'm proud to announce that the city of Starkville was chosen by the State of Mississippi Department of Public Safety, Division of Public Safety Planning to be one of the few municipalities, if not the only one, that was picked to have 75% match on, funding for an AFIS system. And AFIS, if you're not familiar with it, is AFIS. That's Automated Fingerprint Identification System. If you've ever watched the show CSI New York, CSI Miami, this is the live scan system that you put the prints in, and they compare them to a computer bank. Most people think that law enforcement agencies have that. Of course, they don't. And this particular item costs $40,000, and the state is going to give us $30,000, and it's going to cost the city $10,000. Now, my request is for that $10,000 to come out of general fund, and the reason for that being I had some extra money in salary line item from lapsed salary on fulfilled rank positions that I had. But I just took $20,000 out. Y'all will remember the last board meeting to be transferred from budget to equipment to cover the cost of the new computer software. So I'm out of any real ability to move money around and still be able to function. So I think this would be a good investment. It certainly will help public safety solve crimes. It will be a real boon to our particular law enforcement efforts here in the city, and I think it's well worth the investment. The actual match would be, let's see, the total amount of the purchase is $40,552, and our match total of the 25% would be $10,138, and that's what I'm requesting.
Any questions?
Out of that multi-million police budget, you don't think you got $10,000 you can free up?
I wish I did. The board's been pretty frugal on us these last few years as far as making us toe the rope, and we've tried to do that, not to have any fat in the budget. So when I already have taken a $20,000 unexpected expenditure, that pretty much has got what little bit of fat I had, which really wasn't there to begin with, but I think we're going to have to bring it from general fund.
I could tell you a broke story too, but I think it's been told.
Move approval, Mr. Mayor.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Raise your hands. All those in favor, please raise your hands. All those opposed? Dave, you got one other item, I think, is authorization.
Yes,
for
sir. I
staff
believe
to
I
approve
sent
the
y'all a
certified.
letter, basically to go over that letter again. It states that I'm requesting to develop a pool of certified radio operator applicants from surrounding agencies that could come in as needed on short notice. Basically, what we have right now is a situation where we're having more and more calls for service. We have 4 shifts, and out of those 4 shifts, we have 6 people to staff those. On many occasions, we have to have 2 working, and if you get into a situation where you may have 1 sick, 1 on vacation, and then something else unexpected happens, you don't have enough to adequately cover 4 shifts. It puts us into a situation of automatic overtime a lot, and also puts us into a problem with, if you need 4 people, you better have more than 6 sitting on the bench if you need 4 all the time. And what this would do is it would allow people that are chair-ready, APCO radio operator certified, for instance, some of the 911 operators or anyone that would be certified, to be on a list already signed up with the city clerk's office. And if we were short, we could go down this call list of people eligible and say, can you work this weekend? And I suggest getting as big a pool as possible, because if somebody calls in at the last minute sick when it's on the weekend or something like nature on a holiday, you better have several people that you can call, because not all of them are gonna wanna come in. And I'm thinking maybe 5, but the bigger it is would be fine with me, and we would only use them as needed. And this would be straight time as opposed to overtime. So, I don't think it'll cost me any more money out of the budget, but what it will do is it will allow me to have these people in reserve and use them as I need them. And we've reached that point where we can't make it with 6 people anymore. It's not uncommon now, actually, where we're having to pull officers off the street and put them on the radio.
How much are we actually gonna pay them? It's not included in the,
Whatever is the starting pay for, and I'm sorry I don't have that figure, for an APCO certified dispatcher. If we hired a certified dispatcher, whatever beginning pay would be, you wouldn't want to pay them any more than that. And that would be, of course, less than what time and a half would be if you paid a dispatcher.
yeah, I think this is one of those opportunities, because we've got a duplication of service here. When someone dials 911 for emergency service, of course, it goes to the 911 center, and then we duplicate the effort coming to the dispatcher here in Starkville. And I think this is one of those opportunities that, when people talk about consolidation of governmental services, I think this is one of those poster childs of possibilities where we can save some money and not have that duplicated service, and understand in the short term it's going to take some work to make that happen. I've only been talking about it for the past 3 years, and hopefully we can see some progress going forward.
Did that mean you're gonna make the motion,
No, ma'am.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, ma'am.
I move that we give authorization for the establishment of a pool of certified radio operators, record clerks for emergency call-out.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion is second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, nay.
Nay?
How many nays?
Two.
2 nays, okay. Thank you, Chief.
Thank
Doug,
you.
come back up. Let's take up the fire hydrant situation here.
More of a disclosure and finding of fact. When we put our annual source of supply bids out, fire hydrants are, one of the items that are bid. The specs that the city of Starkville mails out every year for source supply bidding requires Mueller part numbers for the hydrants. Subsequently, every fire hydrant we have in town is a Mueller fire hydrant, and they have special threads that are not standard. They have to be made special for our fire department. But I did want to let the board know that when the source supply came in, there were some vendors who submitted bids for other brands of hydrants and some were lower in price. So, that's why I wanted to disclose that one Mueller distributor submitted a bid, and so that was really the only qualified bidder for hydrants. So not the lowest bidder, but the lowest qualified bidder, and I request your approval to purchase these hydrants from the Mueller distributor.
Any discussion?
Doug, what did the source of supply specs specify?
Specified 2 different model numbers of Mueller hydrants, one a 2-way and one a 3-way that has a steamer connection to it. So it just had Mueller, this part number, and Mueller, another part number, one being a 2-way, one being a 3-way.
But any number of possible vendors that had access to Mueller products could have bid.
Now, I'm not sure if the Mueller does exclusive distributor territories. I'm not gonna, be dishonest and say, I don't know that, but, there was only one bid received from a Mueller distributor. And then the only other bids were for different brands, and some of those were less than the Mueller hydrants.
50% less?
No, within $100.
10%?
Yeah, I'd say
It costs a whole lot more money for us to retrofit the fire department, wouldn't it, Roger, than $33,000?
Mayor, I think what we get into on that is, it really gets back into the water department and our maintenance kit. Service these different brands of hydrants. Those maintenance kits are quite expensive. And when we have multiple brands of hydrants throughout the city, they've got to have a maintenance kit for each one.
So there is some efficiencies in standardization, obviously, so,
I think Eli Whitney proved that.
yes, exactly.
Were these some you sell to contractors?
Yeah, these are all, now we do replace some bad ones that we have with these, but the biggest majority of them, I'd say 90% are sold to developers who build subdivisions.
At the same price you buy them for?
Actually, we put a 10% handling and, shipping charge added to it.
On top of your cost?
Right.
Oh,
Mayor and board, I'm sorry.
were you gonna make a motion, Richard?
Yes, unless you had something you needed to say first.
No, go ahead.
Thanks for the information, Doug. I'd like to move approval of the lowest qualified source supplier for, in the amount of $33,171 from Consolidated Pipe.
Richard, may I add to your motion a suggestion with the board finding as fact that public health and safety of the citizens of Starkville for fire protection services requires a certain type of fire plug. Okay.
Did you second his motion too, with that amendment to it?
And I will second the motion.
All those in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye. All those opposed, nay. Thank you. Ms. Boyd, I believe you're up for a 6-month review and update the city Starkville sanitation ordinance.
Good evening, Mayor and Board. Should I say good night? Hopefully all of you in your packets have the memorandum that I wrote up concerning the update. If you'd like me to, I will read it to you. Unless you've read it yourselves, which I'm pretty sure you have. If there are any questions, I will take them now.
Let's start with questions.
One thing you probably should go over is the recommendations that you're making for changes to city policies.
Okay, the recommendations for city operations policies. Number 1, clarify that the sanitation department will pick up loose garbage surrounding a torn bag. The sanitation department will not pick up loose garbage scattered on private property. Any questions? Here you go, Mayor. The property owner shall ultimately be responsible for trash collection for all single-family and multi-family rental properties that do not have a dumpster container.
I have a problem with that.
I'm sure. Go ahead. We've discussed
And what I'd
it.
like to say about that is that we have garbage that is piled up approximately 6 foot high in our neighborhood today because the students don't take a local paper here to find out what days the city has for vacation. So consequently, you try to do that with all of the property owners in this town, and you're gonna have a mutiny on your hand.
Well, the only way I can.
That doesn't mean that we don't pick up, and we do.
Right,
We pick up every day.
Exactly. But what I'm saying is this, the number of property owners that we have here in the city of Starkville, if they can't be responsible enough to give out a flyer, they know.
We give out flowers. We've given out flowers and flyers. And we've got no positive results from either one of them, to the point that we've given out a flyer on the average of once a week, to the point to where we have personally confronted people and they don't pay any attention. And I don't think that this thing would hold up in court if one has gone to the extent of trying to do what is good for the benefit of the city. that we have, I'm mistakenly constantly being harassed that for properties I don't even own.
Yes, sir. Let me say this, Mayor. Thank you, Alderman McLaurin. Alderman,
We would note
Mayor.
that this is just a recommendation
Thank you.
that will be
Thank you.
Well, I'll
discussed at a
hush, and
later
we'll go ahead
time.
and hear your recommendations.
Number
Before you go into
three.
three, how is this different than our current ordinance? I thought it was very clear that the property owner was responsible, and I thought that's how we've been implementing the code enforcement.
We have, I'm just, what I'm doing, I am reinforcing
Okay,
some of these policies,
okay.
okay? The sanitation department should no longer provide daily pickup of residential garbage on University Drive as a part of their daily downtown route. Instead, the residences will be picked up on Tuesdays and Fridays, the same as the rest of the residential accounts in the area. The businesses and commercial accounts will continue to be picked up on a daily basis or their contract as their contract dictates. Now, let me explain that one. Go ahead.
Just a quick question, has Richard Molnax heard about this yet? Because you know how he is about University Drive.
Well, University Drive, I think he would be, should be pretty excited about University Drive. The cans will have to be out there only,
Tuesdays and Fridays.
exactly. So therefore, they won't be out there 6 days or 5 days per week. Okay? I think he should be really happy with that. All right. Notification,
No,
Of
it's
the-
not a word.
say what, Mayor?
No, go on with your thing.
Okay, now. Notification of the above items shall be sent Viva certified return receipt mail to the property owner so they can inform their residents and tenants.
So they can inform what they're already informing.
Keep
Keep going.
Great, keep on. Getting madder by the minute.
The location, screening, and placement on concrete pads for all existing dumpster containers shall be at the discretion of the sanitation department head. Screening may be accomplished by utilizing masonry walls, wooden fences, landscape materials, or some combination of these. Go ahead.
Now, just for clarification, who currently is the final say in the location and whatnot, screening of dumpsters?
The board.
Okay.
The board would have that final say. But if I should go out and I see, the purpose of the containers were to change them from gray to maroon with the bulldog paws, not to be placed behind masonry walls at every point. Some of them can be out of the eyesight, but we would like some of the customers that we have and citizens and business that we have are very proud of their containers. And showing sponsorship to MSU.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, you have a
Sorry, I
question.
stepped out a minute. Ms. Boyd, what areas do we pick up garbage daily? University Drive's on there, we pick up residential garbage every day.
Downtown area.
That's
Downtown and University Drive, Main Street downtown. The loop,
Is there any other residential area we do it every day?
no, sir.
Okay.
Can you start in Green Oaks then?
Beg pardon?
keep reading.
Thank you. All dumpster containers shall utilize plastic lids and shall also be plugged so there will be no leakage of solids into the city's stormwater and sanitary sewer systems. Okay. The sanitation department head shall bring all existing dumpster containers into compliance in a timely manner as they are identified. This includes plastic lids, plugs. I crossed out already and placement on a suitable pad. And will be a placement, because I feel it's reading as if we're putting the pads down, and we're not. The business has to put down the slab for the containers. Appeals of decision of the sanitation department head by property and business owner shall be to the mayor and the board of aldermen. Recommendations for revisions to solid waste orders number 2007 through 7. Revise hours to place garbage at a curb from 8 o'clock p.m. to 8 o'clock p.m. to sundown the day before to sundown the day of the scheduled pickup. This comes at the request of our elderly residents and will accommodate daylight savings time. Any questions? Bagged garbage shall be placed at the curb. Bagged garbage, mind you, will be placed at the curb only on the scheduled pickup date no earlier than 6 o'clock a.m. Since dumpster containers will be plugged, there will no longer be a need to include drains in the dumpster pads unless deemed necessary by the sanitation department head on an individual case-by-case basis. Another update regarding the orders will be provided to the mayor and the Board of Aldermen in 6 months. Are there any questions, please?
On the revisions to the ordinance, is that something y'all bring forth at the next meeting?
Yes,
So that
sir.
we can, or soon? About the change in times?
The change in times? Of course. You all have the last say-so. Sanitation Department does as it's directed.
Would y'all please bring an ordinance with the appropriate revisions at our next meeting so that we could implement the change in time and the,
Well, what we basically, I'm sorry, Alderman Cox.
because it's all, the current ordinance is very specific about what time we can place the trash, and because after 6 months' worth of experience, we want to change that, we need to make a revision to the ordinance, and
And that'll be what we're in the process of doing at this particular time. You wanted an update on what we're doing now, and that's something that we've come up with since we had a revision of the ordinance.
Now, if we're gonna have a revision of that, is it possible to change the time that we're picked up instead of 7 o'clock in the morning, that we be picked up at 10 o'clock in the morning? If you're gonna request a group of people who usually put their trash out the night before they go to bed, that they're not even up and around at 7 o'clock in the morning, that it makes a lot of sense to pick it up when they all put the garbage out there at 10 o'clock in the morning. How would that create such a problem if we ask for a different time frame to be picked up? That way we could get people out there that put it out at a proper time.
They can put it out at a proper time from sunup to from
I heard what
sundown
you're
to
saying,
sundown.
but you don't want me to
inside of a
veto this
container.
thing and go on to the next thing, you bring it back. Is it possible to change the routes to be picked up a little later and pick someone else up a little earlier? It's not necessarily a student-oriented situation.
No, that's not an impossible task, mate.
Thank you.